Hey, moms and dads, don't you just love when your child reminds you about a school project at bedtime the night before it's due? With Skylight Calendar, you can avoid those last minute oops moments. It visually displays your family schedule in one place with different colors for each family member, so you can eliminate those last minute surprises that upset your kids. Skylight Calendar is a Wi Fi connected digital display that syncs seamlessly with all your calendars and visually showcases your family's schedule on an HD touchscreen. You can manage events, chores, and grocery lists on the go with the free Skylight app. This is a game changer for families like ours. And your happiness is Skylight's happiness. So if in 120 days you are not 100% thrilled, you can return it for a full refund, no questions asked. This is a great Mother's Day gift. And right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/calm. Go to skylightcal.com/calm for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/calm. So do you have a child who can be grumpy, who verbalizes everything that's wrong, who often controls the emotional tide of your home, whose mood does determine your mood? What if your child wakes up first thing just miserable and makes everyone else miserable? Well, good, because you're not alone. I want to give you some tools to deal with grumpy, moody kids. So that's what we're going to discuss on today's episode of the Calm Parenting Podcast. So welcome. This is Kirk Martin, founder of Celebrate Calm. And you can find us at celebratecalm.com, where we have our Christmas sale going on. So I'm going to ask a favor of you. I changed all of this at the last minute because I kept getting different emails and I just wanted to take a different path. And I'm going to ask you to give me some freedom, I guess, to not have everything perfectly scripted out, to kind of go with my gut in how I say certain things. And so this is going to apply to all ages, from toddlers all the way to teens, everyone in between. And if you were expecting me to say, well, Kirk, I think that just a good lecture is what we need to do. Well, you're probably mistaken, because there's no lecture that's going to work. Look, no kid's going to be like, well, kids, we just need to be grateful for everything we have. And your kids are never going to say, Mom, Dad, you know what? You're so right about that, because I see you live that out in your daily life. No, lectures don't work. You know what does work? Model it. Model this for your kids. Deal with your own emotions. If you want your kids to be grateful, live a grateful life. If you want them to be generous, be generous. So I'm going to go through this, and I've got basically kind of four pages of pieces of a sheet laid out. That didn't make sense, but just roll with me on this one. So 4 parts. I'm going to go through kind of the age groups from little kids all the way up to us as adults. So let's take toddlers and little ones. And by the way, not all of these, it's not like you can only do this for toddlers. All of these strategies and ideas will apply to kids of all ages. I'm just trying to hit it from different angles where these things tend to manifest a little bit more. So toddlers and little ones. If I've got a grumpy kid, one of the first things I might do is check out and see if there are some gut issues going on, some allergies, if they have eczema. You know why? Because when I don't feel good physically, I'm just a little bit more irritable. And so irritants can cause people to be grumpy. You may check out check with your pediatrician, but for some of you, maybe a functional medicine doctor who does check out gut issues, because a lot of our kids do struggle with that. They have anxiety like I do. Anxiety lives in the stomach. Look, if you have eczema, I know a lot of kids we worked with, I'd ask a question of like, hey, do they drink a lot of fruit juices? And the answer was always, yeah, well, there's sugar and that causes inflammation and that bothers the skin. And if your skin's bothered and you're itchy all the time, you're probably not going to be as patient with your siblings or parents. So always look for the root issue. These are kids who are easily frustrated. I'd encourage you with kids of all ages, sensory touch and exercise is really important because when I'm kind of in a grumpy mood, or even when Casey is, you know what we do? We go for a big hike. Why? Because when you're working and sweating, you're kind of working off that icky feeling inside. So here's the big one for little kids. They whine and they complain and they throw tantrums. We have been through, in fact, in the latest podcast, we did one on kids who are melting down in public. But here's the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown. See, a meltdown is something very emotional. They're not even in control, right? They go from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. But a tantrum is usually, at least at the beginning, it's very rational. I want something, you won't give it to me, so I'm going to just have a tantrum in aisle 3 in the grocery store in our home. And the whole idea, the purpose of a tantrum is, I want to wear you down, mom or dad, until you give in. If it's in public, I can do that more quickly because you get embarrassed. So here are 2 phrases I want you to begin saying to yourself. You can say this to your kids. You don't have to. Just read the moment. But at least internalize. Hey, your mood does not determine or change my mood. Your behavior does not determine or change my behavior. Because if their mood and behavior does change what you do, how you act, how you react, well, we all know this, then they're in complete control of you. They basically have power over your emotions. And I've handled this in our programs in different places in a lot more detail. But begin to really work on that, of saying inside, I refuse to give power over my emotions, my mood, my responses, my behavior to anyone or anything else, because that gives you ultimate power in life. And with tantrums, I will tell you there's no need for a consequence for a child throwing a tantrum. The consequence is that they don't get what they were tantruming about. That's the consequence. You just don't get what you were throwing yourself on the floor for. That's the consequence, is that it just doesn't work. And instead, I invite them, in even matter-of-fact tone, hey, when you're done with this, if you want to talk to me, more like a grown-up, if you want to have a conversation, if you want to problem solve, oh, I'm all over that. But what I wanted kids to know, especially we had 1,500 kids in our home, is your tantrums don't affect me. I am okay with you throwing yourself on the floor. I am okay with you having a tantrum in public. Watch, this is a great phrase. My job as a parent is not dependent on how you behave, but how I behave. We could stop the podcast right there and just focus on that, but we'll keep going. Look, quickly, many of you have little kids who are going to be like, I hate you, mommy. Look, that's purely manipulative. They're not mad at you. They're just frustrated with themselves. They're not getting what they want, and they're looking for some clarity. So don't take it personally. They're just saying that because they're frustrated, so don't react. Okay, as we get a little bit older, you're going to find that many of you have kids who will complain a lot. They will vent. I've talked about this before, where you take your kids to Disney World and they complain like the entire week, every single day. And then a couple weeks later, the grandparents come over and they're like, Grandma, Grandpa, let me tell you about Disney World. It was the best vacation ever. And you're like, what? So a couple things I want you to know. Your strong-willed kids and kids on the spectrum often vent because that's how they process their disappointment. And I wouldn't take it too seriously. It is a form of, for many of these kids, catastrophizing. Oh, this day's going to be awful. I hate it when that happens. And they verbally process what's going on inside of them. Is it annoying? Absolutely it is. It should bother you. See, I'm validating your being annoyed, but I don't want you to react to it. Here are a few things you could do. You could give intense validation. Oh man, I hate it when that happens too. Oh man, that is frustrating when things don't go right like that. See, sometimes that lets them know they're being heard and that you're taking it seriously, so to speak. You could say, hey, you know what, after school, I'm going to give you 7.5 minutes in order to vent. Tell me everything you don't like about school, everything that you're unhappy about. 7.5 minutes, but after that's up, then we problem solve. 7.5 minutes is an arbitrary time limit. I like interesting time limits. It puts some boundaries on it. It's not too short. It's not too long. Moms and dads, you don't have to listen to every single thing your kids say. Okay, this is not like you're their therapist and you have to listen for 20 hours a day. You can put boundaries on things. So you also have to think about, like, are your kids really miserable, or are they just catastrophizing? And it's okay that you ask them, hey, I can hear you saying that. Are you really upset about this? Or are you just processing your disappointment and frustration? That would be a great question to ask them, so that they then know for the rest of their lives, oh, I tend to be prone to just saying, verbalizing and processing, because then they can tell their future spouse, hey, don't get upset. Don't take it too seriously. I just process this way. And you can also tell them, hey, if this is at grandma's birthday party, hey, this isn't the time for that, because everything's not about you, right? That's perfectly fine to you to do. You can also do this, and I really like this a lot. Many of you have kids who get very, very frustrated, and then they lose it. And I don't know if I've ever really said this on a podcast before. I cover it in our programs, but it's this. It's coming to them and say, you know, one of the things I like about you, it is that you get very frustrated, because what that really means underneath is you get a vision of doing something, you get ideas, and then you want to carry out and implement that idea, but you don't always have the tools to do it the right way, and it doesn't turn out, and then you get really frustrated. And what that means is you're conscientious. It means you care about what you're doing, and I think that's a fantastic quality. Now, what I want to help you with is this. I want you to still get frustrated, but not lose control of your emotions when you get frustrated, because when you do, that's when you tend to lash out at your brother. You punch, you hit things, you throw things, you punch holes in the wall, and I know that doesn't feel good, and it's going to cost you money, right? So one of the things I want, see, there's a distinction there of, like, your frustration to me just says that you care about it. I want to teach you how to get frustrated without losing control. And some of that, moms and dads, implies that you know how to do that as well. So let's geek out together for a minute over gut health, because I'm really into this. I just learned that prebiotics are the food that help fuel the growth of healthy bacteria, the probiotics, in your gut. So you have to have both. And that's why AG1 helps my digestion, calms my stomach, and keeps me regular. Look, I've loved my morning AG1 routine for years, long before AG1 became a wonderful partner to the podcast. It's a quick, easy win because I start my day with 75 vitamins, probiotics, prebiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients. I just don't have that stomach distress anymore, where that bloating, that kind of interferes with your day and puts you on edge. Plus, my weight is down. I've got energy for this hiking season. I'm drinking my AG1 right now while I'm recording this, and I think you should as well. AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3 and K2, which I love, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So check out drinkag1.com/calm to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/calm to be kind to your gut. So we just moved into a new home with no landscaping. So we were thrilled to discover fast-growing trees. They take the hassle out of creating your dream yard. No more wasting your weekend driving around, being overwhelmed by big garden centers that don't have what you want. Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the US, with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers, including us. Get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. Plus, you get support from trained plant experts on call to help you choose and care for the right plants. This spring, Fast Growing Trees has the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants. Plus, listeners to our show get an additional 15% off their first purchase when using the code CALM at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code CALM. fastgrowingtrees.com/CALM. Offers valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. So, let's start on those things. Now, what do we do when we get to the teen and tween year? Okay, for your older kids, expect grumpiness, expect some attitude. It would be weird if a teen or tween always had a good attitude. They've got hormonal changes, they've got social media stuff going on. They're wrestling with this whole thing of like they want their independence, but they don't know how to get it. And so it's hard. So I want you to begin smiling at times as if you are expecting this. Let go of taking everything personally. If you're doing too much for your kids and that's causing resentment, well, that's your issue. Stop doing so much for them. If they have attitude, you have every right to say, hey, just want you to know that attitude, that tone, that's not going to work for you. And then you create some space and give them a chance to come back and do it differently. Look, if you have deeper things going on, that's for a separate podcast. But for the most part, here's what I really want you to do with teenagers. Be the one person, the one thing in their life that is drama-free. No drama, because their whole life with their friends, with everything is all, with their hormones, it's all drama. So be that person they can count on. Sit in the discomfort of their grumpiness while you're driving next to them or while they're kind of moping around the house. I know there's discomfort there. I want you to create the environment in which they feel free to come to you and open up and talk to you. But if they think you're going to lecture them or get on them about something, they won't come to you. So work on really sitting silently next to them in the midst of that discomfort and their moodiness without trying to fix it. Again, we could stop the podcast right there. That's enough to work on. Look, there's this whole thing during those years of they want the freedom, but there's got to be accountability. And I remember back in the day with Casey, I had a rule with him with his smartphone, which is anytime I could walk up to him, hold out my hand with the palm up, and he had to place his phone in my hands. Well, that implied there's a lot of trust there because when I looked through his phone, I would see inappropriate things that he had said to his best friends. Why? Because he's a teenage boy. And that required that I not overreact to him because he was just being a teenage boy. But I also wanted to make sure there weren't images, other things going on that could hurt him. Now, the advantage you have as a parent is that there are so many really cool apps out there that you can utilize. And I've gotten so much good feedback. A couple of weeks ago, we did that podcast on screens, and I mentioned Bright Canary. It's a really cool app because you don't even have to look at your child's phone. You can see what they're doing online right from your own phone. You don't have to monitor it 24/7. I don't want you to do that. But Bright Canary gives you a summary of their online activity. It's kind of like an early alert system because part of your goal is to prevent them from doing things that hurt them because they're impulsive teenagers. So look up those apps. Look up Bright Canary. It's fantastic. And I've got a lot of great feedback on that from parents. So here's the other thing with your teenagers. And I'll just repeat this. Be no drama. Sit in their grumpiness without trying to fix it. And let's see if you can find another adult who can be a mentor of sorts for your teenagers because our strong-willed kids, they don't like listening to their parents, but they will listen to someone else. And I've mentioned it a million times because I want you to keep doing it. Seniors, Older people are very grounding with our kids. They've been through everything already. They don't have a lot of drama. And so it's awesome if your kids can go down one afternoon a week and spend some time with an older couple helping them around the house. It's a really cool thing to do. And I would use that with younger kids too. Anyway, it's great for their emotions. So your part in this, I mentioned this before, that resentment part. Of course you're resentful because our kids have so many advantages and things that we didn't have. But if you're doing too much for them and not enough for yourself, well, then you have to flip that around and start doing some things for yourself. Stop doing everything for them. Resentment is yours. Stop trying to fix your kids' moods. I know that kids being grumpy and in a bad mood is annoying. And you know what is equally as annoying? Us feeling the need to fix other people's moods. Look, I'll share this with you. I've learned as I've gotten older in marriage. One of the things that maybe causes me to be the most patient is, let's just take it out of me so it's not so personal, but you know what I'm saying. Let's say you're married to someone who is very, very sensitive. They're a sensitive person. Well, they feel things deeply and things affect them. And maybe you're the spouse who doesn't feel things as deeply and you're a little bit more rational. Well, your initial response is usually going to be to say, oh, honey, there's no need to be upset about that. It's going to work out perfectly fine. And so when you do that, when I used to do that, you know what I was really saying to my spouse? I can't handle your emotions. I need you to change. I need you to deal with your emotions because they're making me really uncomfortable. You know what maturity is, and you'll find as you get older, so get a head start on this. Not feeling compelled to change your spouse's or your child's emotions or their moods. It is really hard, but you know what happens when you try to change them? It causes fights, and then everybody's frustrated, and it doesn't ever work. Then everybody is moody and grumpy. Work on that. Stop needing your child to not be grumpy. Work on yourself, because we've talked about this. The quickest way to change, look, everybody, not just your kids' behavior, your spouse, friends, is to first work on yourself and get mastery of this. So let's wrap this up, because the holidays, I'm trying to keep these short for little kids. And remember these phrases: your mood does not change my mood. Your behavior does not determine or change my behavior. My job as a parent is not dependent on how you behave, but how I behave. That's golden. Don't be manipulated by these kids. You don't have to give in to them at all. Put boundaries around their venting. Give them opportunities to work off the stress, get to the root of it. And with your teens and tweens, no drama, no drama. Stop trying to fix everybody else and just work on controlling yourself. If you want help with that, man, start off the new year. A great thing to be two things. One is get everything packaged for yourself or for your spouse as a Christmas gift, because it will change your family for generations. And you don't have to listen to it all before holidays because it's really busy. But man, we can start the new year off fresh with a game plan with specific action steps and strategies to control yourself and to help your kids. That would be amazing. And it's on sale now. If you need help financially, reach out to Casey. He'll help you out with this. Thank you all as parents. Thank you for letting me be tough with you and not coddle you as parents, right? I understand how hard this is, and I have tremendous respect for you working so hard, listening to the podcast. I appreciate you sharing the podcast. So we can do this. You can do this. You're really good parents, and I appreciate you. Okay, talk to you next time. Love you all. Bye-bye.